The City of Phoenix holds community budget hearings throughout April, allowing residents to comment and make suggestions on the city manager's trial budget before final decisions are made. This public discussion is among the reasons the city's budget so closely matches the community's highest priorities each fiscal year.
This is wonderful to have you guys here engaged, talking with each other. Appreciate it. I'm Ed Zerker, I'm the city manager. It's my privilege to be here with you this evening. In just a second, we'll hear from our hosts, Councilman Nowakowski and Vice Mayor Gallego. A couple housekeeping things first. I'll start with our interpreter, Judy Holm. Ask her to introduce herself.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Judy, soy intérprete de español. Si alguien necesita el equipo, estoy en la mesa de atrás. Gracias.
Thank you, Judy. So welcome. This is the fourth budget hearing in our series of 15 community budget hearings. We actually have 3 budget hearings going on tonight here in Laveen. There's one in Paradise Valley and one at the Helen Drake Senior Center, which is around Northern and 27th Avenue. So we're glad you're here with us tonight. I first of all want to recognize our city employees who are here. So if I'd ask our city employees if they'd raise their hands. So, thank you for recognizing them. None of them are being paid extra to be here. They're here representing their department. They're here to listen. There may be a specific question somebody has, and we'll send somebody to talk with you specifically about an issue, but just know that the city employees are here to listen and learn from the things you have. If you'd like to speak this evening, we'd ask that you get a card from the back table and fill it out. That helps us keep track. Genevieve's waving her hand back there, and she has the cards. Also, these booklets are really important. This is a complicated budget, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but this has a lot of information. We hope it's at an easy to understand level for you, so we'd invite you to pick up one of these in English and in Spanish if you would like that. When you speak this evening, we'll ask you to speak from the podium. That is so everyone can hear, but it's also because Channel 11 is filming the hearing. The hearing will be broadcast on Channel 11 later, but it will also be available on YouTube, the city's YouTube channel, on demand at any time for anybody to see. So we also take minutes and record comments in minutes, which are distributed to all the council members. So there's an opportunity for people to watch what you're saying on TV, but also to read what you said as well, so we can capture all that as we're talking about our budget. So we'll talk a little bit about the budget in a minute, but first I would like to my repairman, Councilman Nowakowski. As you can see, Councilman Nowakowski, his day job is of course in radio, so he knows a lot about amplification, and it is my pleasure to invite Councilman Nowakowski to say a few words, and then we'll turn it over to Vice Mayor Gallego. Councilman.
Well, thank you so much, and welcome to the Laveen budget hearing. This is a great budget hearing every year when we come out here. Laveen is the one budget hearing that has the people that are most active out here in Laveen. Let me tell you, about 8 years ago, during this budget hearing, one of the things that we asked for was a master plan for our Cesar Chavez Park, and we were able to get that. We asked the city manager for some extra funding, and we started 3 different phases of Cesar Chavez Park. We completed the first phase, which is basically fixing up the playground equipment and fixing up the fences and putting in the skate park. We just completed about 2 months ago. The second phase, which is creating some soccer fields and football fields, and also an amphitheater out in the park, and also a dog park that my colleague, PK, was advocating so strongly for. All right. And then, things are happening out here. We finally got our own police precinct out here, and the spread is on the other side of about 99th Avenue and Buckeye. But one of the things that we really need to talk about is getting more police officers, more firefighters. That's one of the things that we all into maybe a food tax, or we're going to look into a property tax, because I know that there's a lot of wants. One of the things that I've been hearing some of my colleagues talk about is that we want to make sure that each police officer has a body camera. And we're talking about $11 to $12 million for body cameras. So I believe that's a want, not a need. I believe, it's my own personal opinion, that the $11 to $12 million should be put into more officers out there in the street. So that's one of the things I'd like to hear from you, is what are your needs, and what are your wants, and what are you willing to fund, and how are we going to fund them. So with that, we're here to listen to you all, and bring in your inputs, and just to talk about all the wonderful things out here in the field, but at the same time, what are the needs for our community out here in the field. The other thing that we've talked a lot about is the streets. We're working right now on Hill Broadway, and we had a little hiccup of about $10 to $11 million, and then we finally got some revenue to complete that project. So that's going to happen. We're looking at securing some of the property, and that's what's holding up that process right now. We're working on the 35th Avenue right now, expanding that roadway. If you travel down 35th, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It takes a process with the county to secure that property, because it's not city property, it's actually county islands. So that process sometimes of extending our streets takes a little bit more time, because we have to work with our colleagues at the county. So with all that, folks, we're here to listen to what your needs are, what your concerns are, and hopefully we can serve you better.
Hello, I'm Kate Gallego. I serve as the councilwoman for District 8, which includes much of southern Laveen. And I am now the rookie councilwoman, but 2 years into my term. So it's a great time for me to check in with folks and give a little bit of an update on what we've accomplished in those 2 years, many of which are based on suggestions we've got at this budget hearing. So we're pleased to share what we've done and what is coming next. We also have Tracy Crockett, who is very familiar to folks in this community and serves as Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Greg Stanton. So she is also listening and participating and has a vested interest in success in this community where she has deep roots. Speaking of Mayor Stanton, today Mayor Stanton celebrated Mayor's Day of National Service, where we recognize volunteers, and it is also Arizona Gives Day, where we ask people to step up and support the nonprofits that do so much of the important work in this community and elsewhere. And given that it is both of those 2 days, I think it's a great time to recognize the amazing volunteers in this community. So we have Stephanie and many of the folks who chaired our barbecue, Fern, leaders who lead our sports league, our youth things, our youth activities. Yeah. Our leaders of the Laveen Association of HOAs, our block watch leaders, the volunteers who staff our boards and commissions. So can we get a cowbell for everyone who volunteers in the community? We really could not do it without you. You are our leaders, help us understand what is important. But we do have great partners in our city staff, and I am grateful to all of the city staff who carry out the ambitious plans that you take up for us. So thank you to the city staff who is here with us today. We've already gotten a lot of feedback ahead of time, and so I thought I might give a little bit of an update. I did not anticipate how far people would be away from the screen, so we have copies of the PowerPoint. Maybe we can help that if you can't see it. But this shows our police hiring plan. We are also hearing a lot from this community about police precincts. I think actually every time I see Wendy Ensminger, who leads the Laveen Association of HOAs, my new name in Laveen is Kate. When are we getting new police precincts, Gallego? And we have an answer. We are getting them next year. So I didn't ask her permission, but I think Wendy might be coordinating input from Levine to make sure we get great representation in Levine. It's something that I've been working on. Obviously with police, violent crime is our top priority, but among things elected officials can influence, I think, precinct boundaries, and response times is very important. And if you've seen, there's been some articles in the Arizona Republic recently where I and Councilman Nowakowski have really been pushing response times in this area, and it's something that our city manager has heard and responded to, so we're hoping to have more momentum in that area. In terms of community involvement in public safety, right now the city spends $1.3 million on block watch grants, which is money that you, the citizens who run block watches, direct to your priorities, whether it's more signs, community engagement, better lights. I am very pleased of that $1.3 million, $300,000 is spent in District 8, so Carmen is our commissioner, and she is doing a good job getting, I wouldn't say it's more than our fair share, because we spend every bit of it wisely. But we are well represented, and so together with District 7, $450,000 of $1.3 million are being spent in our community. So that's your tax dollars coming back, and I think a good news story in that area. On the fire department, we have a new fire station in the Levine area. We are hiring firefighters, and we have updated the mulch code related to fires. I don't know if anyone remembers some of our summer fires where the mulch pits burn. So we went in and there's some new rules where they have to have precautions to make sure we can put out fires and more importantly, prevent them. And we're working with Maricopa County supervisors to get that adopted in county islands as well, so that hopefully we can have less money spent on fire prevention and more common sense solutions, clean air. We hear a lot about street improvements in this particular area, and thanks to the voters who approved Prop 104, we have a new revenue source to address street improvements. So if you look back at some of the streets that you said to us in these meetings were top priorities, the city went out, we have a technical van that looks at potholes and sees where they're bad. And people, I think the most colorful, we have Greta Rogers here has mentioned to us that the potholes are so large they can swallow a car. So we have been doing extensive pavement work in the area, pardon our dust, but 35th Avenue, Southern, repaving on Dobbins, there is more to come. Dobbins and Baseline are planned in the near future. And then we'll do the area right around the freeway at the same time as that construction so that we don't have to dig it up twice, which is also something we hear often. We don't want to see people digging it up twice. 19th Avenue and Broadway right now is a sewer project, it's not a streets project, and I very much apologize, I get stuck in that traffic as well, but people have said we want infrastructure and investment in this neighborhood, and so thank you for putting up with the traffic while we make it happen. In terms of flooding, we've been making significant investments in this area. You all pay taxes to the Maricopa County Flood Control District, which has primary responsibility on flood control. Unfortunately, they did not have the budget to make improvements. And this is an area where it was probably one of the hardest things my first year on the Phoenix City Council. I met a neighbor who had a newborn baby who'd never had a safe place to live because her house flooded not once, but twice, over and over again. And so I really want to do my best to make sure this does not happen again, and have been looking very hard for funding to address this. So I've met with the White House, the Federal Department of Emergency Management, FEMA, Army Corps of Engineers, the State Department of Emergency Management, Maricopa County, Flood Control, brought in a variety of folks, including Senator McCain's office, Senator Flake's office. The mayor and half the city council visited some of you in this room while your house was evacuated after a flood, and people had their underwear on top of their bed because they had to tear up their carpet. So thank you to folks who were willing to let people in to see the impact on our community. Because I think when you see how bad the flooding was, that really helps people see that we need to find funding. And then I worked with the city manager on some innovative solutions. So for the first time ever, the city is funding flood control, like the big basin on 27th Avenue and South Mountain, and then the county flood control will pay us back when we get the funding. You probably can't see it on the map, but there's about 7 different projects from 51st Avenue, 35th Avenue, 43rd Avenue to address flooding issues in our area. It is still not fully funded, and we'll continue to work on that. We have made some significant improvements in public transit. The number one thing we heard at this meeting was bus service on 51st Avenue, so we've extended that from Buckeye to Baseline. We make improvements in terms of shade structures based on the need, so where the most people board is the first priority, and we've put several new ones in the past year. One of the ones on 35th Avenue I feel like I should name after Stephanie Scovell, who reminded me about it as often as she could, and so we have made those changes, and there's more to come. We've also made significant investments in parks programs. Councilman Nowakowski mentioned that when I ran for office, I promised we would have a dog park south of the river, and now we have 2. We hear most loudly about youth sports, and thanks to Councilman Nowakowski's leadership, we have a lot of new lighted fields, several park upgrades. It is not enough, and we have more to do. The community has drawn up plans for a $10 million community center, and we are still trying to figure out where to find $10 million. So if anyone would like to donate $10 million, that would be fabulous. But otherwise, we've been going to folks like the Community Foundation, Gila River Indian Community, and others to see if they can partner with us so that we can expedite those improvements. There's a really great picture of the Levine Conveyance Channel where we reseeded, put in new sprinklers. It looks much better than it used to. We got a lot of complaints at the earlier budget hearings about that. Still not perfect, but it is much, much greener. We hear regularly about graffiti cases. Councilman Nowakowski and I co-chaired the city's graffiti task force and have made a variety of improvements, including changes at the legislature on penalty side. We're working with our neighboring cities for them to adopt some of the changes we've made here to make graffiti materials more difficult. And we're also working on programs for young people to have better things to do than graffiti. And our graffiti busters, including many of the people in this room, have cleaned up a lot of cases. We do not have jurisdiction in county islands, but we try to work with the county on those graffiti cases, which I know we hear regularly about. On code enforcement, we made a bunch of great changes that I hope will make neighborhoods look better, including making it clear you can't park on the grass in front of your house. When I was elected, we did not have a summer maximum heat temperature in apartments and houses in Phoenix, and now we do have that as well. And we've just been making a bunch of changes. We can sometimes fix up lawns and then put what's called a lien on the house. And I led a task force that looked at that particular issue and doing a better job. And we actually just hit $1 million in new blight-related fees that we got in from people where we cleaned up properties. So new money in to do more of that type of work. And then the bottoms shows our commitment to public art. We are spending more than $600,000 right now in the area, particularly around Broadway. Economic development is one of the things we hear the most about. Levine is hot. District 7, Councilman Nowakowski's district, is seeing a little bit more permit activity than my district, but overall 250 new permits in our area. This week, Sweet Bites, a dessert place, is going to open up at 35th and Baseline, and they're doing construction on a new Circle K that will have crime prevention design features and hopefully have safety improvements over the old Circle K. And then at 35th and Baseline, they're also bringing a Bahama Bucks, which is fun for some of our younger people in the community. This is 51st Avenue and Baseline, and they're going to be breaking ground on Peter Piper Pizza soon. So a good amenity there. And then this shows 59th Avenue and Baseline. And so this is the shopping mall with the Levine Conveyance Center going through it. And of particular importance is in the lower right-hand corner is the movie theater site. Christine Mackey, who is our wonderful economic development director here, we've been going out to meet with her. She definitely deserves cowbells. So she was in Chandler when Chandler built the 202 and did a great job bringing in both highway jobs and high-class, good amenities with retail. And so we're going to do everything they did well and better when we have the 202 coming through to take advantage of that opportunity. When she came to the city of Phoenix from Chandler, her very first visit to a location was she came out with me to 59th Avenue and stood where the freeway is going, and we talked about what people wanted to see and what we can do to make that happen. So she really gets it. We've been meeting with different shopping mall folks and encouraging them to bring sit-down restaurants and the coveted breakfast restaurant. And they think that the corner right on Baseline is the best shot for a breakfast restaurant here. So we're trying to speed up construction as much as possible because I know individuals are eager to see that. So
Do you know if the movie theater is going to have an IMAX 3D?
So there was a question if the movie theater is going to have an IMAX 3D, and I do not know the answer to that. We're pretty far. Unfortunately, they want construction to, they want the 202. They don't want us open in the middle of a construction zone, and so we have to wait a little bit on details, but our City of Phoenix folks are doing our best to support the 202. Obviously, the state of Arizona is building it, but if you see in the budget, there is a whole position, a very senior person at the city who would just work on 202 issues, making sure we get infrastructure right, making sure we can move construction as quickly as possible, and just try to coordinate all the city side so that everything we do around the 202 is ready to go as quickly as possible. We know people are very, very eager for that, and so if this budget passes with that in it, that will be something that will very much help the Levine area. So I have a 30-minute version of this presentation. There's a lot more we did, and I think I'm going to see if I can invite myself to La Jolla to provide more detail. But this is really about hearing from you, and so I will stop talking and just say thank you for letting me serve. Thank you for helping all that's happened so far. We have a lot to do, but we're looking forward to partnering with you to get it done. Thank you.
All right, so thank you, and I'll get away from that. What we have next is we have a video that explains the budget at a fairly high level. It's about 15 minutes, and then we'll take testimony. This is probably the most complicated budget I've seen in my time with the City of Phoenix because we have some unique things happening, and the video will explain. The first thing is just a budget for a city as big as ours, $3.2 billion budget. It's very complicated. The second thing that makes it even more complicated is we're in the middle of negotiating labor contracts with our 7 employee unions and associations, and we haven't concluded those yet. So that's a bit of an unknown, so we have some numbers in there, assuming what we might be able to do with employees, but we don't know that yet. And that will be explained here. Our employees are still in concessions, and they're seeking to restore those concessions. And then the third thing is what the first part of the video will spend time on, and it's explained more on page, I believe it's page 6, page 5, Page 5 of the budget is a summary chart that will be talked about. It deals with the issue of property tax. We use property taxes in the city to pay both for operating costs, things like parks and libraries and police and fire. And then another part of property tax pays debt service on buildings like the fire station and the storm sewers. And you'll hear about that, but that coming to a decision point on property taxes, where we have to make a decision about whether we're going to increase them, or find other resources, or cut the services we have. And that's all explained here. So with that, I should say before we go to the video, we want to thank Cesar Chavez High School. I believe the principal was here. Is our principal here? Just left? Well, let's give a count for Cesar Chavez High School. With that, we'll roll up the video, and then we'll have time for questions, comments, and statements.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your first look at the City of Phoenix 2016-17 City Manager's Trial Budget.
Input from our residents is very important, and your ideas can help shape what will end up being the final budget for the next fiscal year.
The final budget is important because it provides the plan for how the city will spend taxpayer money and how services that you depend on could be impacted.
I think the city manager's trial budget provides a great pathway for us to continue providing the outstanding services that Phoenix residents expect, and it gives employees the opportunity to continue to provide that great service every day.
Why is a balanced budget important?
It's required by state law and city charter. In this trial budget,
There is a $60 million surplus that can be used to improve essential services that will benefit the community. Examples include public safety needs, employee compensation, and restoration of some programs and services. So how does the funding work? Funding for the city budget comes from three sources: the general fund, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds. Examples of general fund city departments include police, fire, the library, parks and recreation, and streets. Enterprise fund departments include aviation, water services, solid waste services, and the convention center. Special revenue funds account for designated sources of money for a specific purpose, like sales tax dollars for the hiring of police officers and firefighters, and funds for public transit.
So how did we get here? Under the leadership of the mayor and city council, we are glad to say the budget is balanced.
The mayor and city council have really set the tone and direction for our city staff and employees to be focused on innovation and efficiency.
Here's just some of the ways that happened. First, eliminating 119 vacant positions and other administrative savings actions that will result in an overall savings of just over $11 million. Second, there is a one-time carryover of $25 million from last year's surplus. Also, the city is saving by making needed adjustments to the workers' compensation fund and has sold extra police helicopters that were too expensive to maintain. Did you know that Phoenix has reduced administrative expenses and has the smallest number of employees per capita in over 40 years? And while still providing great services, the city has reduced authorized staffing levels by more than 2,700 positions. That is 16% since 2007. Also, city staff is constantly finding innovative ways to save money. Did you know that since 2010, we have saved $106 million in taxpayer funding? Some examples: the municipal court. It saved almost $600,000 by eliminating a criminal courtroom and a civil courtroom due to lower court volume. Plus, a new process with copy services. By reducing the number of printers and copiers citywide and securing more competitive rates with copy contracts, the city should save hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. Now to rising pension costs, which continue to be an important issue. Thanks to the leadership of the mayor and city council and actions taken by voters, the savings from reform efforts will reach $1.1 billion over a 23-year period. And what a difference a year makes. Last year's 5-year forecast projected a deficit of up to $58 million. But with guidance from the mayor and council and the efficient work of city staff, that deficit was eliminated without reducing services to the community.
Mayor and council also expect us to provide great service, and that's what the city employees work to do every day.
One of the biggest challenges the city faces has to do with how the city will continue to make its debt payments for voter-approved capital projects.
We're at a place where we need to make tough choices. Like any of us during the recession, where you may have lost a job or your wife may have lost their job and your income changed and your bill stayed the same. So the city of Phoenix is at that point now.
Several options will be discussed, including increasing Phoenix's combined property tax rate. Phoenix has had the same rate for 20 years. That means since 1995, residents have paid $1.82 per $100 of assessed value for property tax. The rate has gone unchanged while the city's population grew and important services developed, like new fire stations, parks, and libraries. The city has been using a reserved fund to help pay off that debt. This has relieved homeowners from increases in property tax rates, especially during the recession.
What other cities in the valley, after the recession, they started to, when their assessed valuation changed, the values of their properties changed, they started to float their rate up and down so that they levied the same amount of money, brought in the same amount of income. What the city of Phoenix did, we thought that we would give our taxpayers relief. So we kept the rate at $1.82.
In the meantime, the city had debt to pay, so a reserve fund was used. This relieved homeowners from increases in property tax rates, especially during the recession. But now that well of backup money is finally running dry, and the city needs to raise an additional $37 million to pay the debt service. Otherwise, Phoenix's strong credit rating could take a hit.
We are taking in less money, and now we still have the same payments. Our payment on our mortgage is essentially our debt service. That's what we have to continue making. At the same time, we have other sources or other services that we provide. Those costs have also increased, and our ability to make those payments has gotten tougher and tougher.
The budget lays out 5 ways to solve this. A detailed explanation of these options are in the trial budget summary booklet, handed out at all public meetings and online at phoenix.gov/budget. Option number 1, increase the combined property tax rate by 35 cents to $2.17. This would equal an additional $4.25 per month on an average single-family home, about 14 cents a day. Even at this rate, the average single-family homeowner will still be paying less than they did back in 2009.
We could continue to provide services, infrastructure, pay our debt at the lowest, cheapest possible cost, and maintain a very strong bond rating and provide our citizens with good services for many years to come.
Option number 2, generate $37 million in other ways by increasing a local sales tax, a food tax, or perhaps an addition to your city services bill. Option number 3, use all of the $60 million surplus to provide property tax relief for 2 years. That means no money would be available to restore employee concessions or add community services, including those cut in previous years. Now keep in mind, with this option, the city would still need to find a solution to this problem in 2 years, and this could hurt the city's strong credit rating. Option number 4, use some of the surplus money to provide tax relief for 1 more year, along with some of our reserve funds. But the issue will have to be addressed again next year. Now with this option, the city could improve some proposed services, but not all. And this option could hurt the city's strong credit rating.
Some of these other options are short-term, which means they're only going to provide a solution for 1 year, maybe 2 years. And it really is just kicking the can down the road, and we will be back in this situation in a couple of years asking for a solution from our citizens.
Option number 5, cut $37 million from the general fund by making significant cuts that would directly affect the city's ability to serve residents and business owners. The city manager has outlined $44 million in services from which to choose. This includes cutting $14 million from the police department, $10 million from the fire department, more than $2 million in library services, and $6 million from the city's parks and recreation department. In a service business like the city, dollars translate into the people who provide the services, like 911 response, recreation programs, senior and youth services, and more.
Since 2010, we've been drawing down our fund balance reserve for our GO bonds, and we're at the end of that. So this is the last year that we can use that reserve to pay our debt service.
How will the city tackle this debt service situation for the long term? The plan is to refund and restructure bonds as long as rates remain where they are now. Until then, one of the mentioned 5 options must happen in order to pay the city's debt service for the facilities we've built. This is critical in order to keep the city's strong credit rating, which lets the city borrow money at a low interest rate to fund projects that are important to you. A look at these 5 options are on page 5 of your trial budget summary booklet.
Here's a look at the new services proposed in the trial budget. Many residents feel that protecting the public should be the city's top priority. The mayor and council agree it's critically important to keep everyone safe. That's why public safety and criminal justice amounts to 72% of the general fund in this trial budget. The new budget adds $2.4 million for the first year of a 3-year, $11 million plan for Phoenix police officers to start using body cameras.
Well, body cameras mean a lot of things. Safety is one of them, transparency is one of them, trust is another thing. For our residents, it allows them to have greater confidence in their police department.
The budget will also allow the department to hire a director of employee assistance and wellness.
Our employees are our most valuable asset. We need to make sure we take care of our employees. By hiring this position, it allows us to do that.
Now to the fire department. The budget would spend $2.8 million in one-time costs to replace the obsolete Emergency Transportation Billing System, known as EPCR.
We are the last large city in the state of Arizona to move forward with the PCR.
Electronic records will let our paramedics spend more time on patient care and less time on paperwork, and make payments from insurance carriers more efficient.
The latest technology for us to do our jobs more efficiently, protect the information of the community, bill efficiently so the taxpayers are getting revenue back into the pockets in order to provide services to the city of Phoenix.
The budget also calls for spending $1 million to begin rebuilding the road to North Mountain, along with fixing the radio tower to make it meet industry standards. The radio tower is critical to the city's public safety radio system. Now, to dedicated public safety special revenue funds. Because these funds will be balanced next year, the budget includes the hiring of 130 police officers in 2016-2017.
Other than 2015, we haven't hired any police officers for almost 6 years.
The council also approved a plan to hire 36 firefighters next fiscal year.
We have been fortunate over the last couple of years to be able to hire minimal amounts of firefighters. This will allow us to fill all of our vacancies.
Now, let's look at dedicated Phoenix Parks and Preserves initiative funds. Money would be used to maintain new dog parks, recreation centers, and playing fields. From the Development Services Fund, which is paid for by building permit and inspection fees, is this proposal. The city is seeing a huge spike in construction, which is great news. To keep up with demand, the budget calls for adding 8 new positions to meet the needs of all the growth. Out of the Solid Waste Special Enterprise Funds, the trial budget calls for adding 15 positions and equipment needed to support curbside green organics, diversion, and illegal dumping programs. This will ensure that Phoenix continues to be a national leader in keeping waste out of city landfills. The budget calls for a few additions that directly will help the members of our community. They include new funding to support the city's continued effort to get veterans off the streets and back on their feet.
So the proposed funding will support peer navigators who help veterans living on the street make all the connections they need to make to get into housing and stay housed.
And money to add staff and supplies for after-school programs for disengaged youth.
This funding would really allow us to increase our programming by offering STEM programs, physical activities, as well as interaction between the youth and adults in many of our city parks.
Looking ahead, one of the biggest challenges to the general fund continues to be the cost of employee pensions. The trial budget reflects an increase of $15 million in civilian employee pension costs. But since the mayor and city council took action on pension reform and the voters made their voices heard, these short-term increases will slow over time with a savings of more than $1 billion over the next 2 decades. Now to the police and fire pensions, which will go up $21 million. This is the result of a state Supreme Court decision. Increases in future years are partly because of other pending court challenges and system funding issues. Also, proposed reforms could help reduce how much the city will pay in the future. Then there's employee compensation. For 6 years, city employees have been part of the shared solution of our budget issues, agreeing to almost 6% in cuts to compensation. 4.2% of that is still in effect. The trial budget proposes to responsibly restore some of it, 2.6%, or $44 million, over the next 2 years. This is an investment in our most valuable resource, the workers. As a service business, the city depends on good workers to provide outstanding services. Keep in mind, the budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the city of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like.
The budget is really for the people of Phoenix, and so for it to be the best budget possible, it needs to reflect what people have to tell us, and that's why we're out to listen to the residents in the trial budget.
In summary, the trial budget has several options, including solving the debt service issue by raising the combined property tax by 35 cents to $2.17. This would allow the city to use surplus money to add critical services to our police, fire, and other city departments. It would also allow the city to restore some concessions made by city workers 6 years ago.
15 public hearings will take place this month across all council districts, and you are encouraged to attend. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meetings or on.
Test. All right, sorry about that. Well, we were about 30 seconds from the end. It was just going to say, go to phoenix.gov/budget if you'd like to learn more. So, you've been very patient with us. We would love to hear from you. We're going to hit the lights, get some light on the subject here, and we will start with our first cards. We're going to ask you to try to stay within about 3 minutes. There's a lot of people to speak, and so with that, we will get started.
Our first card is from John Marcus, one of our village planning commissioners.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and supporting the community. And Kathy Martin, who's the president of our HOA, please don't start my time until I say this, really misses our CAO, Tony Falcone. All she has is a picture. The one thing we all have in common, I took a few notes because I'm not really a public speaker. The one thing we all have in common throughout the entire community is the police department. Calling 911 and being put on hold is uncalled for, but as some of you know, it actually happens. Everyone voices the same concern, but it is never remedied. This speaks for itself as a number one concern. First responders are our front line in the war on crime, but funded as second-class citizens. Excuses are no longer accepted and cannot be tolerated. I'm concerned with the budget restraints to the Phoenix Police Department. When the food tax was ended early, we were told that was due to better economics. It was no longer needed. But yet we still can't fully man the police department. But we're told that there are not enough funds to properly staff the police now. My main concern are the CAOs. Those are the community action officers. They're the liaison between the police and the citizens. We always say that the community must be involved to combat crime. We have been told that it is, the CAOs are a tool in our community, and as we refer to them as our cop. Someone has to take up the cause when after numerous calls we are told nothing can be done. This is their job. They dig into the case file or talk with the problem resident. A lot of notes. Problem communities are a result of fear and mistrust. When there were beat cops in other communities, the citizens were involved. The CAOs are our version of the beat cop. We can call when frustrated or concerned. I myself and many more in our community ask that while the police department is brought back to full strength, the CAO program is nurtured. It has become part of our community. These officers attend many community meetings where citizens are able to ask questions or voice concerns. They put on demonstrations for having a safe community. Our CAOs have been stretched beyond breaking. Actually, one of them we haven't even met yet The other one has been transferred, and we don't know next time we'll have a CAO at one of our meetings. And they've been to every one of our meetings. These people, I don't know when they have time with their family. It is beyond me. I can't even understand it. Most petty crime is built from boredom, and in the Levine community, there are no parks in the actual communities. I mean, when you break them down, nowhere where youth can go and play and meet. I have proposed that all schoolyards be open and funds be allotted to have a school representative pass out balls and enforce school ground rules of conduct. This will eliminate the need for additional playgrounds. All we have to do is remove the locks. Once again, I want to thank everyone for coming out and express your views, whether you can speak or not. I gave it a shot.
Thank you to Mr. Marcus. John worked with all of our street staff to make the traffic on 35th Avenue less bad during construction. So thank you to John for his help with that issue as well as many others. Bobby McLeod is our next speaker.
Okay. Excuse me if I get nervous. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Bobby McLeod, and I have many horses in this race, but I want to speak about two. I'm the state bingo license holder. I manage bingo, and I'm a member at Senior Opportunities West. Remember me? I'm also a homeowner in Levine. You might remember me speaking on behalf of SOW in previous budget hearings. SOW, we're the members that feel like the ugly stepchildren. Always remembering we were promised something like a new facility, more space, and never getting it. And it continues. Another short-term lease signed for the rented end unit of a shabby strip mall in South Phoenix. That's what SOW calls home. Remember? This is a center that contributed 9,902 recorded and countless unrecorded volunteer hours, and this is what we get. In reading your 103 proposed ways to help balance the budget, you once again consider closing 4 out of 15 senior centers. And once again, you're threatening to reduce the already insufficient senior shuttles by another 7%, resulting in freezing the membership. Other options are drastically reducing community centers' operating hours with a dramatic impact on senior centers that share those facilities, leaving them unable to access gym, fitness center, and classrooms, etc., till 3 p.m. or later. Most seniors have left the building by then. Well, you may be surprised this year I'm through begging. I'm not going to beg you to keep SOW or any other senior center open. Enough with the emotional threats to close senior centers. It is clear you've come up with enough proposals that you are showing your hand and your desire to clear the plate of this obligation. If that is part of your plan, just go ahead and do it. Seniors already feel like they don't matter, so just continue, confirm it. But if you intend to maintain senior centers for the senior citizens, particularly in South Phoenix, I suggest you address some absurd problems that exist at SOW. I do not think or know if you treat seniors in Paradise Valley or other northern centers the same way, but it really doesn't matter what I think. Last year, you outsourced breakfast and lunch. It would save you money, you said. But at what cost to seniors? Initially, the food was several steps above what was being served prior to outsourcing. And then, as the contract went on, gradually, the quality and quantity of the meals suffered. At first, 1 out of every couple weeks. Then 1 out of every week. Now it's a treat to get a meal that A, looks edible, B, is edible. But things are uniquely worse. Picture this sitting down for breakfast. A piece or two of bread, sometimes butter, sometimes not. A container of applesauce. Except on special Thursday, you also get yogurt and a little strip of cheese. Frankly, I have bags in my car for the homeless that contain better, but that's neither here nor there. Here's the best part. Picture this. Applesauce on a day when no bread is available. You get a knife to eat it with. Really? Bread with sometimes butter, yogurt, and a spoon. Be creative, seniors. Use the handle of the spoon to spread the butter on your bread, turn it around, and eat your yogurt. Really? Is this what you do in your employee cafeteria? Oh, before you offer that it is out of your control, don't worry, there's enough people ahead of you saying it's out of their control. First, there's the person with whom you have a contract. It's not their fault, it's their vendor. And it's not the vendor's fault, it's their vendor. And I wonder why even the administrators don't just run to Costco and buy some plasticware, $500 in a box for a small cost. But that's too simple, because it's really not their fault either. Someone, whoever is sitting at the buck stops here chair, should at the very least be ashamed. It's so bad that some seniors now actually bring their own silverware and coffee cup. The senior centers have had programs for years. I'm told they were called Brown Bag at one time, Gleaners at another, and I don't know what they call it now. In recent past, I'm told yearly contributions were requested. Now no money is requested. Every week they get bags of something, vegetable, fruit, water bottles, potatoes, and bread. Lots of bread. Lots and lots of bread. Lots of expired bread. Food that's no longer saleable, so give it to the seniors. Really? So here's basically what I'm saying about the seniors. Stop threatening them about possible closings. It's what you do every budget hearing. Shame on you if you're no longer going to provide services for the seniors, but do what you will without sending seniors messages that put them in an emotional frenzy. And B, if you intend to keep the centers open, consider feeding and treating seniors better than the folks in Tent City. You should be embarrassed. We're the 6th largest city in the United States, and this is the best we can do. Moving on to my next horse in this race, Levine. There are folks here who have all the history and all the data that can back up anything that they want to say. This is my take. I thought I was fortunate to buy a house in Levine. What I didn't know is that we're practically on our own when it comes to crime prevention and protection, because it takes a major accident, shooting, or a high-speed race to get police presence. Why? We're down so many officers, it's frightening. You propose 130 in 2 years? That's kind of hard to do, but God bless if you can. As a community, we're trying to be proactive, and we're working together on crime prevention and reporting suspicious behavior, criminal activity that we observe. We do volunteer-driven block watch and PMP that's active. We're told to call non-emergency. Ha! They're so understaffed and so busy with 911 calls, many times, in fact often, there's no answer. Really? 6th largest city in the United States, and we don't even have 911 staffed properly. The kind of criminal and punk gang activity that we have that can ultimately bring a neighborhood down to the point of no recovery is occurring in Levine every day, and we're basically on our own.
Bobby, that's about 7 minutes, so we need to wrap up.
Can I have somebody else give me some time?
We'd just like to wrap up. We got a whole bunch of other people to speak.
Okay, can I come back and speak on Levine when we're done? I'll get somebody else's time.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Isaac Cerna, followed by Rick Neymark.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Isaac Cerna. I'm a big advocate for the youth. Today, when I was walking in here, I was noticing all the kids out, and I was thinking to myself, I remember when I was there. And I remember
we had activities for us. As I got older, I saw a lot of my friends get into trouble who didn't realize what the city had to offer. Parks and Rec are a great advocate for the city. Every dollar that you spend on the youth, either who are misguided or misdirected, if you give them that foundation, 20 years later, you don't have to spend more money as you do those who are misguided. My good friend, Raul Daniels, he has some information for you. Raul's been a big Parks and Rec guy for many years. He's done a lot of research. He has a lot of time on his hands. Please do read that. Please share it with other city council members. That is a big key to understanding. It's a big key to success. As a native of Phoenix, what do I need to help you guys so we can do more for our youth and even for our seniors? Because as we all get older, we all want to be taken care of. We all want to be helped. And a lot of times on a fixed budget, that help isn't there, but we need to help them as we help our youth, because that'll be a big key. So thank you for your time. Thank everyone out here for coming out today. And remember, this is our city, but we all have to work together to get things done. And we have to be advocates, and we all have to work together. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rick Neymark. I'm a resident of District 7, not the Levine part, but the other part, but I couldn't make it to your hearing up there, so that's why I'm here tonight. I have three things I want to talk about. First is, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, both our elected officials and all the city staff, for everything they do for us. I came to Phoenix 30 years ago, and I don't think there's another city that's a better place to live in the nation. It's because of the hard work that everybody does every day on our behalf, and so I want to say thanks. And in particular, thank you for supporting more resources for transportation, for being wise with our money and all the efficiencies that you talked about in the video. It's really impressive, and I just want to thank you for all that great work. And also for your openness in listening to people and responding to the public and all these processes. The second thing I want to do is just talk generally about the options you've laid out in the budget. I think you're right, this is complicated, and you've laid out some really interesting choices for us. And I think from a big picture perspective, I support the city manager's recommendation of an increase in revenue as a long-term solution for the budget. So you got a lot of things you got to do. You got to keep existing services. We don't want to cut anymore. You got to deal with compensation. You have to fairly compensate people for the work they're doing. And I don't need to get into the details of that, but people are taking cuts and sacrifice, and I think it's just important to pay attention to that. And you also need to continue restoring services, because you've been cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting and restoring just little bits and pieces over time. So these restorations that are in this budget are important. So one of the revenue choices in there is to float the property tax rate. And I actually think that's the right thing to do, given what the reason is for the revenue increase need, which is, as the budget director said in the video, that you got to pay that debt service payment for existing debt that's out there. And the property tax is set up as that vehicle to do that. And if you think about it, our property values go up not because of natural forces. They go up a lot because of investments that are made in our community. My property value is going up because you've made investments and made the quality of life better in my neighborhood. And that's going to happen here as well in Levine because of the investments that are being made in the Loop 202 and other transportation improvements and all the things that we're Councilwoman Gallego's slideshow. So it makes sense to me not to artificially restrict the property tax, which is already lower than any other place in the nation, at a time when the investments that you need to make a great community only help to increase our property values. So that's my thought about what you do there. And let me just say one other thing, which isn't on the table, but I want to propose it, which is the proposed float of 35 cents is not enough. People may not realize this, but there are $150 million of projects that the voters approved in 2001 and 2006. That's 10 years ago, 2006. 2001's 15 years ago, that have not been built because of the lack of ability to service the debt. So I don't know what the number is, Mr. City Manager, but if you could raise it more than the 35 cents, then you could get those projects out of jail and help invest in communities like Levine. So that's my thought about the big picture. Okay, I'm going to be real quick about my little thing. And by the way, there are other projects that people want to build too that are not even approved or funded yet. The last thing I want to talk about, and the reason why I actually came down tonight, was I'm a member of a group called the Friends of Phoenix Public Art. And Phoenix has an awesome public art program. It's one of the great jewels of our community. I pass by shade structures that are public art at the bus stops on Baseline Road. And when you build things, you got to take care of them. And one of the problems in Phoenix is we're budgeted at about half, 49,000 of the 100,000 we need annually to maintain the public art. So it's going to be broken and go to waste if you don't invest in that. So to the extent you have revenues available to fund additional things, I don't want you to take it out of the grants program that you're restoring, and I don't want you to cut the cultural facilities management, property management services which are in there. I don't want to cut other programs to fund this. But to the extent that you're adding programs, if there's flex in the budget, that's a really important priority because those things are going to fall apart and then our investment will be wasted. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
We have Linda Abeg, followed by Linda Cannon.
I'm Linda. I'm in District 8. And I also want to say thank you. It looks like we're making some great improvements in the things in our community. In regards to the budget options, I'm also in favor of increasing the taxes if it provides more services. My one concern is that those services also get increased in Levine Village and not just in the more high-profile areas, including like the central Phoenix areas that are part of our district. We definitely need the more police services that we've talked about a lot, but also the Parks and Recs services. I looked on the IMAP service on the city website today, and according to that, west of here and south of Lower Buckeye, we have 10 city parks that are not developed yet, and we only have 2 small parks in that area to service. That same area has at least 8 public schools. That's just the Levine public schools with about 1,000 kids each, plus the charter schools in the other districts in the area. So we definitely have a base that could use more parks. And as far as the classes and things that are available, I know from my house it's 20 minutes to the closest community center if we want to do dance or tumbling or any of those. So I am in favor, I'm willing to pay more in my taxes to get more services, but with us paying the taxes here in Levine, I would like to see more of the services that other areas of Phoenix have because we're also paying here. Thank you.
It's Linda Cannon, followed by Sue Floor.
Thank you, and
great to see this many people here tonight. I want to first thank all three of these people up here. I am with the Friends of the Phoenix Library, and every one of them have attended events that we've held for book sales to raise money for programs at both the Cesar Chavez Library and at the Harmon Library. And so I really appreciate all that you've done. And I'm going to not repeat everything the last two speakers said, except to say ditto, ditto for both of them. And then I have a couple quick things. One, in terms of library services, just looking at all the needs that you have, I understand why we're not restoring to where we were before the 2009 recession. We all get that. I would only ask that you all keep in mind as you move forward this year, next year, and the year after, that gradually restoring library services as you are gradually doing other things would be our goal, and that we would get to all day, every day for library services for the city of Phoenix. And particularly when you talk about a community like ours that does not have a large community center, does not have a lot of options for youth, or families really, to do things that don't cost them a lot of money, that you really look to library services for what this library is for us in Levine. And it is our community gathering place. It is our place to take children for educational programs and story times. So as Friends of the Library, we'll continue to raise money to do special programming, and we would just ask that you look to every year getting us to a point of all day, every day for library services. And then my next comments are my comments. They're not representing the Friends of the Library. And that is to the speaker two before me, I would just ask on your tax options that you really not consider another regressive tax, whether that's sales tax on food, sales tax generally. The families in these communities have already shouldered a regressive tax because we voted for it, for the transportation set. And we're not quite, I think, even got that integrated into all of our budgets, that we're going to have that additional tax. So I would really support what the gentleman before me said, and that is look at the property taxes as a way, and I don't know if you need more. If you do, 35 cents doesn't seem like a lot, and whatever that number was for each of us annually, it's a little easier than adding a food sales tax or any kind of sales tax to families who have a fixed income and just really can't do that. And then one other personal plug, and it goes back to the same kind of theme, and that is I see in the proposal that there are options for increasing after-school programs for youth. I don't know if that includes after-school programs at Cesar Chavez Park. I just hope that it does. Thank you very much.
Sue Clore, followed by Gary Ensinger. Or maybe Gary first.
While my original card was to come up here and complain about why I can drive through Albertuque on a weekly basis and not see the 4-foot weeds in the medians that I see on my way home from Baseline, although I do know that you got them cut down before the budget meeting tonight. After looking at the budget, I'd much rather address what I feel is a bigger concern to the Phoenix budget. Now, I worked for Maricopa County for almost 20 years, gone through some lean times and some good times. And I originally started, my compensation for my retirement was at 5.25. It's currently at 11.4. I've seen you have in the budget proposals for concessions to your workers. Now, I know Maricopa County has attacked its compensation to its workers based off of the money available, not what they'd like to see the workers get. I know you're dealing with the union, which is a little bit different because I don't have a union that represents myself, but it's kind of hard for me to look at the fact that last year we had anticipated about a 3% raise, But when Maricopa County Board of Supervisors looked at the overall budget, they thought it was more important to put that money into a rainy day fund to compensate for any lack of funds that we may have in the future, instead of giving me a raise. And I know that the way you guys propose it, you say they made 6% in concessions, but I realistically know that that's not like a 6% cut in their pay. It's a 6% cut in what they were promised they were gonna get. So, like I said, I've been through a lot of hard times in Maricopa County where I haven't received a raise for 3 years. And I know that that's just because the budget was the budget, and that's what we had to deal with. And everybody says, well, if you don't pay the workers, you're gonna see a mass exit of the workers. I've been working for Maricopa County for 20 years. Through all our lean times, I've never seen that mass exit. In fact, we continue to get good people in working for us. So that's one of the things that I know that you guys are dealing with the union again, but if you hold a hard line, there's plenty of people out there that if you say, this is it, this is as far as we're gonna go, and the union doesn't want to budge, there's plenty of people that want to take the jobs of the people that are gonna want to leave. Thank you.
And Sue actually filled out a card. She did not wish to speak, but she wanted to express support for the Library and Parks Department. She volunteers for both departments and feels they are very important to the city. And then we have another do not wish to speak card from Francisco, who asked if it was possible to extend 23rd Avenue around Southern, because there's a lot of trash that accumulates permanently in that area. And we do have some folks from our streets department at the back table. So Francisco, if you maybe want to get a one-off answer, I think this particular extension would require cooperation with the county through County Islands, and we can see what we can do in that area. Muriel Smith did not wish to speak, but supported option 1. That is her priority. Karen did not wish to speak. She feels that the presentation was a sales pitch for increasing taxes. What? Karen, please come up and speak. Yes. And we may have more than one Karen. There's no last name on the card.
Sorry, I did want to speak. Okay, I do feel like that it was a presentation, sales pitch to raise our taxes, and you presented it like our taxes haven't gone up, 35 cents. I know the other people are going, rah, 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 more taxes. Our taxes have gone up every year a couple $100. Maybe it's because the property values have gone up, but still, people on fixed income, like seniors, I get $800 a month. When our property taxes go up $300 a year, it's a significant raise, and Social Security stays the same. So while that's the easy touch to get money to adjust your budget, you're not considering senior citizens who got no raise this year. Social Security had no raise, but everything goes up. I feel like you're not responsive to their needs because that's the easy touch to get the money. So I'm probably the only one that feels that way, but if you have to cut services, I'd like to take the Concorde to New York or to Europe, but I don't do that because it's not in my budget. If we have to cut something that's not in the budget, that's what seniors do all the time, to live within their means. So Bobby can have the rest of my minutes. So.
Thank you. And a resident who didn't want to leave name has asked for baseline road improvements. When will the improvements take place? And so some of those will take place in this year. One of our youth advocates, Raul Daniels, wanted to speak about teen programs, followed by Monica Maldonado.
Good afternoon, evening. Maricopa County and the City of Phoenix ranked number one in the country, with number of youth ages 16 to 24 out of school and out of work. We have 180 to 200,000 teenagers out of school and out of work. South Phoenix, Laveen, and Maryville are the areas most affected by these numbers. We've had 2 drive-by shootings involving teenagers since Sunday. We've had several shootings and killings since January involving teenagers. I offer 3 recommendations for consideration. First of all, reinstate the nationally acclaimed City Streets Dream program. It was a national model that you had right here in this city. It's all been cut. I also request that you implement 1 program in Maryville and 1 in the South Phoenix Laveen area. 2, the new Parks and Recreation Director, the City Manager, and City Council conduct teen forums with teens 15 to 24 that are out of school and out of work. They best know how to address their issues. 3rd, create a partnership with the Cesar Chavez High School to launch the City Streets program here in this area. You did have an after-school program here before. I know because I created it, and that thing was cut, I think, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Crime prevention research supports after-school programs as a crime prevention tool. The Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention recommends after-school recreation programs as a prevention component to preventing crime. Teens who do not participate in after-school programs are 3 times more likely to skip classes at school, 3 times more likely to use marijuana and other drugs, more likely to drink alcohol, smoke cigarettes, and engage in sexual activities than teens that participate in after-school programs. Los Angeles now has what's considered one of the best after-school programs in the whole country. Their juvenile arrest rate dropped 42% as a result of an increase in after-school programs. Their youth incarceration rate dropped 73% in that same time period. The study they conducted in the city of Los Angeles also showed that for every dollar invested in after-school recreation programs, it's every dollar, you save $2.50 in crime-related costs. That's double and a half. This is what surprised me. 69% of police chiefs throughout the country, that's 7 out of every 10, support tax-supported after-school and child care programs as the most effective strategy for reducing juvenile crime, even preferring it over hiring more police officers. That's key. Police chiefs would hire less police officers in order to include more activities for kids after school. Last, there are a variety of measures in which you can implement these services. Number 1, you need a Parks and Recreation Department that's going to be creative, thinking outside the box, to create effective partnerships with schools, with the business community, and with other youth-serving agencies, so everyone's sharing the bill, not just the taxpayer. Thank you very much. I'll quit now.
So, Ron, you talked about the city street program. How much would it cost to create a city street program for this area?
About $200,000. It incorporates basically 2 full-time teen specialists and part-time staff and supplies and contractual services. Thank you.
Monica Maldonado, followed by Courtney Sullivan.
Good evening, everyone. So I am an active member of my homeowners association, and as such, I came to speak about the fact that we sometimes try to fill in the void that we're missing by not having enough officers out on the street. And what I mean by that is we staff our own security services, costing our community over $30,000 a year, which means we have to reduce other services. So I asked the City Council to consider, though I support the camera program and I think it's a great asset, I would rather see that 160 officers that are being proposed to be doubled. We know that we're understaffed. I come from a City of Phoenix police officer family, and I gotta tell you, they're overworked. Last year, my community suffered in a span of 2 months a $10,000 loss in water valves being removed from the community. We actually caught the perpetrator doing the act of stealing City of Phoenix water meters, because he also stole 5 of those, which cost you money. And the police was called, 911, and the response time was so long that the perp left. The police officers that finally showed up said, "We know he is, we just don't have enough staffing to catch him." That resulted in additional losses to the community. So again, I am for increasing the property tax. As someone that has to work with a much smaller budget for my community, I understand that services are increasing in costs, but I think the safety of our community is a priority. We cannot attract businesses, keep businesses, if we do not have safety in our streets. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Courtney Sullivan. I am the Executive Director of the Arizona Center for After School Excellence. I'm also a City of Phoenix resident, but I'm here on behalf of the after-school programs in the City of Phoenix. The speaker two before me had a lot of the same great data that I won't need to share with you now because he did that. But I am concerned at the potential reduction in the PAC programs in the city if we do not find revenue streams through property tax or other measures. Not only are the teens affected, but our youth ages 6 to 12 are affected. We are looking at cutting more than 50% of our after-school programs for the populations that need them most. And the reason that I am up here, as opposed to many of those folks themselves, is because 45% of those students are from single-parent households. They don't have the luxury to leave school, to leave double jobs, and to come and speak. So I am here to speak for them. They need to be in those programs. They need the academic support, they need the health and nutrition support, they need the support for physical activity, and they need the adult mentorship that they get in those after-school programs to prevent some of the issues that we are having in our communities with crimes and kids roaming the street and engaging in activity that do not make them productive citizens. One of the pieces of data that the previous person did not share that I do want to share with you, because I know there is a concern, particularly when you're an elected official. You never want to be the one that supports a tax raise, any new taxes at all. However, every dollar that is invested in out of school saves $9 down the road where you don't have to pay for additional services, counseling, juvenile facilities, anything related to youth services. $9 compared to $1. And I think our youth in this city deserve that investment. Thank you.
The next person to speak is Tony, but I have 2 cards who did not wish to speak. Nick Rouse supports option 1, please support youth programs, restore pay to all police and firefighters. Lindsay Bateman did not wish to speak, but says we have an undeveloped park at 47th Avenue and Alta Vista. We've been waiting for over 10 years for it to be developed. Please consider.
Hi, my name is Tony. How about a cowbell for Levine? I'd like to thank Councilman Nowakowski and Councilwoman Gallego. I'm hopeful for Levine. Sounds like you've been listening to us, and we are very appreciative. We are trying our best as a community to better our way of life here. We have, if you go to, we use social media. Social media is the best way that we can communicate with each other. So we have, if you look at Levine on Facebook, Facebook is the biggest one. There's 150 pages out there. We have the Levine community page. There's 6 admins that run it. We're up to 6,000 members on that page. And that's after we kind of clear out who can go in there. So these are people that care about Levine. We have a block watch page. Last time I talked to you guys, there was maybe 1,000. We're up to over 2,500. We're doing what we can to give you guys the tools you need to make Levine safe. You tell us to call in. You tell us to report everything. But then they tell us there's no one there to help you. And that we have a problem with that. Yeah, we like body cameras. It's a great idea, but I talked to the officers. They would rather have not a body camera, but another officer next to them to help them fight the crime. Think about that. If you want, we want more officers on the street of Levine. We're going to help you help us. Levine Elementary got smart. They know they're growing. They needed some schools. They asked for an override. They got $45 million in November. One of the highest overrides that got voted on. They'll vote for it, but you got to tell us and you got to give us some proof that if you're going to use these resources, that you're going to bring them to Levine. For the folks watching this online, you hear cowbells because the community here is strong, and those cowbells are for Levine. Real simple, I noticed there were some reductions. There's a reduction in graffiti abatement by 18%. I say no. We love the fact that you guys can fix graffiti right away. Keep that, please. You also want to eliminate all city-sponsored swim and dive teams at all pool locations. My son goes to El Prado for swimming lessons. We don't have a community park. Don't take away the community center. Keep the pool, please. I work very hard. I work with Cub Scouts. I work in my community as an HOA president. I coach soccer. I'm doing what I can. Give us some stuff for our kids. This is a young community, young families. They'll vote. They'll give you support, but show us that you're here for Levine. Thank you.
Rachel Johnson, followed by Emilio Rivera.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Johnson. I am a resident here in Levine. I'm also a business owner. I'm an attorney, and I have a law firm downtown. Levine is very precious to me. I loved it. I moved here from Ahwatukee, came to this side of the mountain, and I have no regrets about it. I love the fact that we have lots of land. I love the fact that it's still a lot of what I view at least, as old-fashioned community. And that's what makes Levine special. But there's something else that I'm seeing that is increasing in this area, but it's not where I want it to be. I don't mind paying the taxes, just like you heard some of the other folks say. But one thing that I want to see happen is more public art in the Levine area. We simply don't have it where we have it in other areas of downtown or in other areas throughout the city. I support the city manager's trial budget recommendation in allowing there to be an increase in revenue for public art. However, I do not agree with the city manager's proposal to cut the cultural facilities management and property management funds. The reason for that is because I believe it will detrimentally affect some of the cultural gems, if you would, of the city of Phoenix, such as the Phoenix Art Museum, such as the Children's Museum of Arizona, and the Phoenix Theater. With that being said, I do believe that we need to maintain the art that we have. I'm excited to know that we have a new park and ride. We have shades, beautifully crafted wrought iron shades at the different stops on 27th Avenue and Baseline, as well as 24th Avenue and Baseline. The reality of it is that art has to be maintained. I would love to see more than that. The park is fantastic. I call it Cesar Chavez Park. I don't think that's the real name. I think it's Alfred Park. Park, but it's fantastic. You can do a walk around the park with your family, with your pet. It's a safe environment. I've never had trouble out there. You can picnic, but some art out there I think would just make a huge difference. I would like to see Levine beautified, and I believe art would do that. Frankly, in the city of Phoenix, I just want to give a couple brief statistics. Nearly 4 million people have viewed public art in the city of Phoenix from City of Phoenix grantees. Nearly 1 million youth have attended events which were presented by the Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture grantees. And lastly, the Phoenix Arts and Culture Office activities have generated more than $300 million in economic value to the entire city. Public art is very much underestimated. There's a lot that we need in Levine, and by no means am I disillusioned about that. I do want those priorities addressed first, but I would also like City Council to consider the fact that we want to have some beauty out here in Levine, as it's very precious, like I said to myself, and I believe to other people in this room. With that being said, I would like to say that many public art structures in this city, whether it's a bridge, whether it's an overpass, whether it's a canalscape like the Highline Canal, which is just down the road here on Baseline, or any of the streets here that have artwork along the side of the highway, they bring in jobs to our fellow citizens here in the Phoenix area. And what I mean by that, local contractors, local construction workers, mason workers, electricians are all hired to do that work for these public art projects. So with that being said, right here in Levine, we have, as I said before, those shades right along the road here on Baseline. We also have the beautiful terrazzo flooring at the Sky Harbor International Airport, which has won multiple awards, whether anybody in this room knows that. But because I serve as a commissioner on the Arts and Culture Commission, I am very proud of that somebody took the time to say public art is important, and I believe it has made us a forerunner here in the Phoenix area. And lastly, this has been 180 public art projects have been created in this city alone over the past 30 years because the city council and the mayor have made public art an important part of the budgetary process. So again, tap into those general funds. And I would just say thank you for your past and your present support of public art. Thank you, all of you.
Emilio, followed by Carmen.
Good evening. My name is Emilio Rivera. I'm a firefighter paramedic with the City of Phoenix. And I want to thank you all for allowing me to be here this evening. What I want to talk about is real brief. I would respectfully ask the council to please restore the pay cuts that we've had to endure throughout the last few years, and to also recognize the men and women of the Phoenix Police Department and the Phoenix Fire Department for the sacrifices that they make on a daily basis, not even when they're at the station or when they're at the precincts, but every day we are public servants, and those people are willing to lay their lives on the line for each and every one of you in this room. And that's all I have to say. Again, I respectfully ask that you restore the cuts that have been made. Thank you.
I live on 19th Avenue off of Rozier Road in an area called Lindo Park, and we have been receiving a lot of attention and help from the police, from fire, from city parks, neighborhood services. All of these city services have been working with us to make my neighborhood safer. Levine, Cesar Chavez Park, beautiful. I come here every Saturday morning trying to get rid of some of this weight. The dog park is wonderful. The stadium or whatever with a community center, whatever it's called, it's beautiful. I've lived in South Phoenix for the last 50 years, and in the last 50 years, I've never seen as much attention and money spent in South Phoenix as I am seeing now. Thank you, Councilman Nowakowski. Thank you, Vice Mayor Gallego. It's about time. Okay, there's a whole lot of us living here paying our taxes. And speaking of taxes, I strongly endorse option 1. All of the proposed deductions are not acceptable. It is not acceptable to reduce the senior services. It is not acceptable to reduce the homeless shelters. It is not acceptable to not reinstate the pay cuts that we took away. All of that needs to be paid. Vice Mayor Gallego mentioned earlier that I was on the Block Watch funding committee. And the Block Watchers are formed to reduce crime and increase community involvement in the neighborhoods. What we do is receive your request, look at them and see what we can do to see what we can pay for. And this year, as in every other year, we approved requests that were more than the funding that was allowed. And so we went into the surplus and stole some money. The surplus is going to run out one of these days. We need to keep increasing. Everything that we get, a new dog park, the attention that we get from the streets department, from neighborhood services, all of this costs money and it continues to cost money. I do not think it is acceptable, and I speak only for myself, to increase sales tax because it affects those that are the poorest of the poor. I do not think it's acceptable to reinstate a food tax because it is not acceptable to people who do not know where they're going to get their next meal. For me as a homeowner, there's 2 less trips I get to make to Starbucks. I'll pay the extra $4 or $5, okay? Just so that we can continue the services that we get. So I strongly support option 1, and I strongly thank our council people for remembering South Phoenix exists, okay?
Brian did not wish to speak, but asked that we invest in fighting crime, safety, traffic suppression and flow, increased funding and hiring of officers for patrols. Next we have Janet Trailer. Followed by Clyde Wiggler.
Janet Trailer. I live in District 6. I'm a member of the City of Phoenix Arts and Culture Commission. So I'm here to speak tonight about supporting the recommendations of in the budget. Completely support it, and I really want to thank everyone that's here tonight to talk to the folks here. I think arts and culture has seen a lot of cuts. This new budget simply restores funding to the grants program and bringing the Office of Arts and Culture's allocation up to $730,000, which is still about half of what our real goal is. Our goal is $1 per capita. That's the amount that cities of our size, like Denver, etc., large cities, we're the 6th largest city, spend money on arts for all the reasons that have been mentioned by the people here. Starting with the gentleman in the green t-shirt right here. I didn't get your name, but you talked a little bit about how most petty crimes are a result of boredom. They're not only a result of boredom, although that's a big factor, but they're also a result of a feeling of a lack of self-worth. And the lady behind you from the senior center, same thing. Older people suffer often from a lack of self-worth. They don't feel valued. Arts and culture, whether it's music or dance, these things can be with us from the time we're tiny to the time we're old. And they can give us a sense of who we are. They can give us a sense of personal mastery and self-discipline and joy that really helps us be better citizens and helps us stay out of trouble, right? Particularly for our youth. So back to all these after-school programs, so often it's arts in these programs. Sure, sports are important and, you know, we all want to be the star quarterback, but it's more likely that we're going to carry arts through our lives, whether it's an appreciation for music or performance, than it is being a star athlete. So that's why arts and culture is so important. My little 2-year-old granddaughter just visited, and she is 1 in a million. Does everybody else have kids who are also 1 in a million? Well, that's important. The reason I say the 1 in a million, it's Mrs. Johnson, Rachel Johnson, mentioned that 1 million children have experienced arts and culture from the budget that the city of Phoenix puts into arts. And that is through things like in District 7, Release the Fear, big program to help kids learn how to use skills other than violence to manage their lives. And also the Children's Museum. It's a little far away from here. That's why I also support arts in after-school programs. But as everybody has said, we're just trying to restore cuts that were taken a long time ago. And the programs really help us all, cradle to grave. So as Phoenix looks to the future, arts and culture really is vital. We all know that. Beautification and personal growth for all of us. So I urge the city manager's budget be approved. Thank you all.
And I apologize, Clyde did not wish to speak, but asked that we fund youth after-school programs, seniors, transportation activities, veterans housing, employment opportunities, and health care. Greta Rogers.
This thing is it's either so loud into your ears or you can't hear. It's an old EA system. I am in support of the minor increase in the property tax, 35 cents. It should be $1. We haven't had a property tax increase for over 20 years. And the main culprit for it is my councilman, Sal DeCiccio. He's tighter than a tick on a dog's back in July. Costs of living have gone up in 20 years for every single one of us here, and we have met the challenge, and we haven't crawled into a hole. The city has no less obligation to do the same. 35 cents is $4.20 a year. A parent and one child going to McDonald's to have pure grease, sugar, and starch spends more than $4.20 in one visit. So I don't buy the poor me, poor mouth baloney. Pass the tax, and let's get realistic about it within the next 2 years. In addition, non-negotiable, you raise all employees to the level of forgiveness that they gave over 6 years ago and has not been restored. Not half, not 1/3, 100% restoration. These people are the engine that makes the city go, and we have the best quality employees of any government organization in this state. And if you don't believe me, go to a county office or a state office, and you're talking to insolent idiots. This is the most important investment that we make is in our employees. Restore them to full parity, which doesn't include any COLs. Third, fund the street department so that they can begin meaningful, essential repairs and design improvements to our streets. Our streets in the older part of the city, and I don't happen to live in the older part of the city, I live in Ahwatukee. But the older part of the city is crumbling, deteriorating, and disintegrating under our tires. These are non-negotiable and they are essential. and there is no if, and, or but about the three of them. Full restoration of employee salaries, full complement of police and fire within 2 years. That's 300 plus in the police department and almost 200 in the fire department. And it's non-negotiable. Thank you.
Horn Ward did not wish to speak. Police should be made whole. Thank you to Council 7 and 8 for supporting our 500 plus ball players. Love the idea of opening school fields for rec areas. Will be less expensive than new fields. Share school areas with police stations. Additional police are a good idea, but if we don't provide something for the kids to do, we're spinning our wheels. And now since I already volunteered Wendy to help with police precincts, we'll see if she accepts or not, or if I get in trouble. So with Wendy Ensinger, followed by Manny Verboa, followed by Claudine.
Good evening. My name is Manny Verboa, and I'm a Levine resident.
Wendy Ensminger, Levine resident.
We're not here to take your time, so make this short and sweet. It's hard to follow up with people's concerns, issues they have with the taxes, tax increase, reduction in services. So I think now is the time to call upon Levine residents to think of a different alternative. That alternative being incorporation of Levine into its own town. So at this point in time, I would like Levine residents who would like to begin discussions, please see myself or Wendy after this meeting so we can at least get those who want to be involved in these type of discussions, at least get a start moving Levine in a different direction. Again, it's just a discussion, not to mean that we will succeed, but again, this is an alternative to what's going on with the city of Phoenix. I see this, if you recall, 2008, the big thing with the recession was, are the banks too big to fail? I'm looking at it as, is the city of Phoenix too big to succeed? So for those who are interested in this proposition, please see us after the meeting.
And I'd just like to say thank you, Vice Councilwoman, Councilman, for putting this together to give us a venue so that we can speak to what is needed in Levine right now. And thank you so much for bringing up the precinct. I would love to see that happen. Yes. So anyway, we're not speaking on behalf of La Jolla. We're just speaking on behalf of ourselves as citizens. We want to work with the city, but we also see Levine falling behind every year. We get further and further behind. And we just want to see, maybe there's an alternative. So if you're interested, let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Claudine.
So for me, it's like Groundhog's Day. I come here every year, and every year I say thank you, and every year I say, why don't we have a community center? And every year we're told we don't have enough money. So I'm tired of asking for a community center. I'm not even gonna ask for it anymore because we spent $7 million on a dog park, and we spent $7 million on soccer fields, and we spent for an amphitheater that has no air conditioning for our children. So that's great, wonderful things, we're growing forward, but we still have nothing for children and seniors and families that just want to be inside in the summer and don't have the ability to do so. So every year during Groundhog's Day, they look at me and they say, we can't give you a community center. And I say, well, that's great. How about opening up the schools so that we can have activities? And every year they look at me and they say, great idea. Why didn't we think about that? And every year, it never happens. So here I am again, asking again that we get some resources for our kids in the summer. As several people have already stated, crime happens from teenagers and middle schoolers in the summer. They get bored, they've got nothing to do. And so why not tag something? Why not vandalize something? If they had something to do, they wouldn't do those things, hopefully, because they'd be playing basketball inside. So again, I ask for the 10th time in a row, please do something for our teenagers. I don't know what we can do for our seniors. I just don't think we have any place here to utilize in Levine, but hopefully in the future we will. And my second point is, I'm all for body cameras. My husband's in law enforcement. I think that's important. But I really think we need boots on the ground. I'd like to see police officers on our streets. I drive around. I'm on conference calls all the time, and I don't want to have the dogs barking at the house when I get home. So I drive around Levine while I'm on a conference call. And I'm looking around, and I don't get to see any police officers like I used to when I was a kid. They used to be in cars and out there patrolling. We don't have that. So when we tell our community that they need to call for every tiny little crime that they think could possibly be happening, we're telling them that because we're trying to get people into our community. So if you call for it and they're in our community, then when the crime really happens, they're here already, and hopefully the response time is going to be less. So I would like to see more police officers in the Phoenix PD on the streets in Levine. I don't know how that happens. I know Kate is going to give us a precinct, I think. That's what you said earlier, which would be great. But we really need more police officers. So I don't think there's one person in this room that would say that they don't want to see more police officers in our community. So let's do that. And hopefully I won't have to talk about it again next year. Yay! Thank you.
About 5 cards who did not wish to speak. Patty supports option 1. Also, Phoenix after-school programs are vital to our community and parents. I'm in support of extended library, parks, and streets programs. Amber said, what can be done to stop fast food from coming to the city? A McDonald's in less than a 2-mile radius is ridiculous. Quality options. Watch the documentary Super Size Me. Maricel said, I work for the Creighton School District and I'm concerned about the option that includes eliminating PAC, which is our after-school programs. Please don't. This will be disastrous to hundreds of youth and families in our district who rely on PAC. Jess says, I'm concerned with the continued employee concessions. If employees are our most precious asset, discontinue the practice of furloughs and unpaid holidays. Gina wrote about Dobbins and Avenue and traffic with the new highway coming. I do not like a large tax increase. Please discuss in real money and plus or minus percentages how it will affect taxes, not just 35 cents. And now we have Jennifer followed by Stephanie. Jennifer Rouse.
Okay, I wrote down a couple bullet points. I think a lot of what I wanted to say has been said already, but I do support budget option number 1. Mr. Daniels, I think you're still here. I agree with you. Please support the youth programs and please bring them back to Levine. Where's our community center? Why does it feel that the money runs out at the Levine border? I support a tax increase, but I want to see the money here. Please do work with the Levine Elementary School District. Thank you. Work at the school district, and I'm not just going to say for a place for the children to meet up, but also our block watches have had a hard time booking a room at the library. That's where it's affordable. They're looking at other places. It's about $100 to $150 just to have a block watch meeting. And we want to support that because we want to support everybody meeting their neighbors, getting their neighbors out to talk to each other about solutions and how to make the community safer.
along those lines, I would really ask, again, bring the Good Neighbor program back to Laveen. Maybe we need to do it as Laveen as a whole, or maybe just ask a lot of the Black Watch leaders to meet up, and maybe they can bring something to their own communities, because I know that the turnout wasn't as great as we thought it would be previously. We tried to get it running, I know, in Rogers Ranch, and the response really wasn't there. Police and fire, please restore their pay ASAP. I cannot say enough, and Chief Kurtenbach is here, I was talking to him earlier, I cannot say enough about our police officers. I unfortunately had to have multiple interactions with officers today due to alarms going off in my neighbors' houses. Response time was wonderful. I don't know how many of you here know your community action officers, but they are phenomenal. I am very sad. I was very sad to see Officer Falcone leave us, but he's on to something better. Hopefully we have more officers like him. But we need to pay them. We need to restore their pay, because we have the best police in the country, I believe. And if we want to hire the best and more of the best, we want more officers here, we need to pay them what they deserve. Thank you.
So was that last year that there were only like 20 of us here, and that included city staff? So it's great that everybody came out. This is awesome. First of all, I want to thank Kate and Michael for the improvements at Chavez Park. It's great. I've heard nothing but good about the dog park. It's really cool. I've checked it out. But there's room for growth, but good job. Keep it up. So I'm for option 1 and option 2. I know the economy took a dump in 2008, whatever it was, and Laveen lost out on that. Laveen has gone through hard times, and I think if we invest a little bit now, in the end it's going to come back and we're all going to benefit from that. We need to restore, but not just restore, we need to improve as well. A lot of good points. I'm going to just hit a few here. This is still an exciting time in Laveen. There's a lot of brand new development. Let's do it right the first time. Let's make it a really neat place to be. Let's spend the money to bring back parks, bring back the police, and keep kids busy and out of trouble. The school playgrounds, John, I had no idea that the schools locked them up at night. And I know people said tagging or graffiti, but give me a break, really? We got to keep these kids out of trouble. Maybe some of the developers that come in, maybe we could push for them to, there's not that many parks in the developments. Some, but maybe we should push for that too, just to give the kids something to do. One thing that I think is very important is along Dobbins Road, all the way from South Mountain Village through Laveen, is to have a horse path and bike path. Everybody's proud of Laveen and the ruralness of it. I think this is a great way to restore that. You've got city, you've got county, and you've got developers that can all go in together and pay for that. And do you know all the bikers that go ride their bike up South Mountain? I would never do that, but a ton of people do, and we share Dobbins Road with those people. Do you want your kid riding on the street on the bike path that's this skinny next to the road with people, looking at their phone and who knows what they're doing? I think that's a safe thing to do, and I think that would make our community great at the same time. Chris Mackey, I think you are going to do a great job with the downtown core at Laveen, at Dobbins, or the freeway, or whatever it is. We should make that really cool. Make a bike path to that. Let's get people here to come out and visit, and then we can stay here and eat too, and we can go have fun in Laveen. We don't have to leave. Anyway, I know you'll do a great job, Chris. But yeah, we can have parks by the downtown core, have, like I said, horse paths. I'm big into art. We've got the Laveen Art League. Let's incorporate them. Community council, we're going to get out there and help. Like Tony said, there's a ton of people here that want to help. Let's utilize the people we have and make it happen. More parks, more ball fields for kids. It's tough I worked with the Laveen Baseball League and trying to there's so many kids coming out to play, but we can't even schedule because there's not enough places to play. So I guess that's all I have, but keep up the good work, you guys.
I'll try to make this quick. I'll skip over. I was talking about our criminal and punk gang activity and worried that it's going to bring our neighborhood down to the point of no recovery, and I think that's occurring in Levine. We have great CAOs. We had 2, now it's 1, and they, along with the non-patrol detectives and program coordinators, are patrolling 1 week a month because the PD is so short-staffed. I still don't understand how management could let us get so short-staffed on our police department. Regarding business development, just how many fast food joints are you going to approve? Levine is fast food heaven, or hell for some of us. We need shopping, and not all of us think Walmart classifies as shopping. We need sit-down restaurants. We need recreation. Here's the scenario for 51st and Baseline. Peter Piper and Papa Murphy are coming. That makes 7 pizza joints. 51st and Baseline. And I'm from Chicago. None of them are good. 3 banks, 2 drugstores, countless nail salons, tire and automotive shops, gas stations, grocery chains, a whole host of fast food joints, and not one merchandise store. And I would think you'd be concerned, because isn't your revenue better from a merchandise store or a sit-down restaurant than a $1 Mickey D's? I mean, I think that's a problem for you. My impression of business development in our area is come one, come all, first one in the door gets a permit. I know that's not the case, but that's what it feels like. And roads, hooray, 202 is coming and it's going to be built, maybe in my lifetime. But what happens when it's built and the roads leading to it are 2-lane in some area? And I know you're planning on development, but I don't know that you can even catch up with 202. Now it takes more patience than God gave anyone to drive in or out of Levine in the morning and back in the evening. Some of you may have been late just in our traffic jam. I'm curious who builds roads that go from 2 lanes to 4 lanes plus a turn lane and back to 2 lanes in less than a mile. That's the scenario on Southern. Seriously. And then we have a school walk, Fairfax High School. For the kids that live directly north of Fairfax, we have a school walk that connects to a conveyance channel walkway that leads to a 2-lane road, Baseline, with no markers for crossing for a school for kids that directly live north of that school. This is Baseline at 57th. There's also a bus stop for kids that take the bus to school at 57th and Baseline. They gotta say Hail Mary and try to run across the road in the morning to get to school. And I've heard about county islands and the property owner disagreements and all that sort of stuff, but I think you guys need to sit down and get together with county and get these things ironed out before you start building, before you start improving. It seems to me that it's a waste of money. Do a little bit here, tear it up, do a little bit more. Let's get it right the first time. I'll cut a couple things. I still do not understand why we stopped a voter-approved food tax 2 years early, and now we're talking about maybe that's a good idea to have a food tax. Doesn't make sense to me. I'm curious how much is invested in building downtown in terms of tax incentives, because I mean, downtown is growing, it's beautiful, but what tax incentives are being given to lure the business and the development? Maybe we need to stop giving away the kitchen sink. We shouldn't need to, and we don't really need to remind you that the responsibility is to provide sufficient public safety, safe and sufficient avenues for travel, provide parks and their maintenance, recreation centers, and senior centers for all your residents. I have one idea. I have a lot of them, but this is just one. And I'm serious about this. Stop issuing residential building permits. Levine is busting in housing development again. If you can't provide adequate public security, can't provide sufficient road structures, stop building houses until you can. And I'm serious about that. Okay, now having said all that, I just have one last point. Your attachments, particularly attachment 6, my humble opinion, are a joke. If any of that is your real intent, we'd be traveling down the road to Detroit 2.0. The 103 proposals in attachment 6, they're beyond absurd. and they're guaranteed to put every special interest group in a passionate, hysterical frenzy, followed by doom and gloom. If you read each one, it's, okay, we can take this and we do this, and this awful thing is going to happen to you. Which is why in my heart of hearts, I really wonder what's going on. I know we're going to have a tax increase, but level with us. How much is it going to be, and why is it going to be so much? You know, we can take it, we can handle it. We're the sixth largest city in the United States, and I'm embarrassed. And I think we all should be. Thank you for your time.
Bobby, I got a question.
Okay.
It was the first time I ever heard about the food condition for a senior center. Which senior center is that?
I was talking about Senior Opportunities West, better known as SOW. It's at Buckeye and 7th Avenue.
And what time is that served so we can go down there and check it out?
What are you talking about? The food service? You're talking about the senior bags?
The service.
Okay, well, the food service, and I'm not good on times. I go there twice a week because I run the bingo program. Food service, the breakfast, I think, starts around 9-ish. It goes from 9 to 9:30, 9:45. They serve lunch from, depends on when it gets there, probably 11:45 to 12, and then however long it takes to serve it. And it's a catch-as-catch-can thing. I mean, am I saying that this happens every day? No, but it happens so frequent. And now your food service vendor has heard big mouths like me, so now they're serving mismatched pieces of silverware and pieces of plastic, so people are getting some of what they need. But I mean, it's really, it's shameful. I mean, it really is, because it's such a simple thing. I mean, I think it's simple. It doesn't solve the problem, but I'd go to Costco and I'd buy a box of 500 forks and give people a fork. It's just a simple problem. And I think if it's happening in SOW, it's got to be happening somewhere else. It can't just be here. Okay.
I have had the pleasure to eat at SOW a few times, and it was better than my cooking, but that is not saying much. It is low sodium food, so unfortunately there's only so much you can do for that. But actually, we are one of the very few cities that provides this type of service, and I've visited other cities who said they want to learn from our program because they're looking at doing something like that. So it has gotten some positive attention, but we'll see if we can do better. We're going to send Councilman Nowakowski to be a secret shopper and show up for lunch. Julie would like to see a stronger police presence in Levine with a dedicated precinct, increased graffiti prevention, removal, and consequences. In Levine, especially improved youth sports and applicable resources and complexes. Don't cut existing community services. Jacqueline is a City of Phoenix employee who supports option 1. She's in favor of a tax increase, but furlough days must be eliminated. I'm okay with a tax increase to keep city services. I want to spend money in the City of Phoenix. I wish I didn't have to go to another city to participate in their recreation programs. I believe that is the cards I have. Does anyone else want to speak today? Oh, we have one, the grand finale card. Denise is the grand finale card. Who wants to speak about after-school and summer programs for youth? Denise? Oh.
My name is Denise Kleiner. I wasn't prepared to speak, but listening to many of you and listening to your heartfelt feeling about improving the community just gave me the urge to come. I'm representing the youth. I love working with young kids from ages of 5 to 16, 17. I am a dance instructor, and I want to speak on behalf of the youth summer after-school program. There's not only a need for after-school program, but we also have a need for summer program. It's almost 90 days that these young kids are at home bored doing anything. And we need to realize that not every single one of our children have the opportunity to go on vacation to New York City, to California. There's a lot of low-income family here that a lot of these babies stay home doing nothing. So I created a summer program 5 years ago, and I work with a lot of inner city children that have been abused mentally, physically, parents who have been incarcerated, kids who were raised by the grandmothers, because we forget that there's a lot of grandmothers raising these young babies, and they don't have the income, and they don't have the money to send them to programs such as. And I'm here to speak on behalf of these youth programs that is very well needed. I have tried to work with the city of Phoenix, some of the facility. They have charged me a lot of money. And I try to make it affordable to some of these kids, because there's teachers, there's instructors that I have to pay. But at the same time, to be able to find a facility available to where we are able to bring these kids during the summer break for 5 weeks is very impossible, because the city is not necessarily working with me. So I really want you to consider, opening doors. If there's Sonia Slope, I have worked with Sonia Slope. They have an awesome dance studio. That community needs this program as well. I live in North Phoenix. My husband is a lieutenant with the City of Phoenix Police Department, but I don't mind driving to Levine if I need to help save a life. I don't mind driving to Sunday Slope if I need to, or East Mesa. So I just want to make sure that these programs are available for these children, because they do get bored at home. They do find ways to go and hit the street, the internet, or whatever they find to do that will get them in trouble. So I will ask for you to please consider being more open and more liable to working with dance instructors like myself, who are looking for facility to use and provide these services either for free or for low cost for this youth. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for everyone who has joined us here tonight. We heard some powerful testimony. There's so many community leaders here who continue to give, and thank you for giving one more night to make us a stronger city. We appreciate your time, and we have our marching orders, so we'll see what we can do.
And I just really want to thank you for telling us the Levine story, the Phoenix story, because these are the stories that we have to hear. The community of Levine really appreciates all the firefighters and police officers. 4 years ago, a group of individuals from Levine said we need to have a memorial day where we honor the fallen police officers and the firefighters. And we created that. And we have the Heroes Lane. That's not just here down baseline for 35th Avenue to 51st, where we have all the pictures of the fallen firefighters and police officers. But we have taken it down to downtown, from 7th Street to 7th Avenue down Washington. And one day, my dream is each district will have a Heroes Lane. We need to educate our kids about what these men and women, every time they put on that uniform, what they do for us. And saying that, I will be supported to restore all of our employees that promise we made 6 years ago. We were in a deficit, and it was one of the hardest deficits that the city of Phoenix has ever seen. Close to $260 million. And our employees, using the Team Phoenix approach, was willing to give up 6% of their pay to make sure that we continue with these programs. And now it's time for us to restore that money to our employees. But at the same time, it's going to take us, as residents of the city of Phoenix, as residents of Levine, to give a little too, to make sure that we keep all these programs. The programs that you talked about, the youth programs, we need to make sure that we get our fair share, and we'll continue to fight for that. And now with the freeway coming in, and we've been fighting for the last 8 years to get the 202 in here. We will get that property taxes that we need, and we'll get what do we call it, the impact fees that we need to build these centers, these parks. We have a lot of parks, property within Laveen that's undeveloped, and it's because of the impact fees. We were projecting buildings to go up, and when you buy a house, there's about $14,000 or so that goes back into our streets, our lights, our libraries, our parks, and all that. Everything just stopped for the last 6 years. And now we see it coming back to life. And those impact fees are going to start to impact our community, where we're going to make sure it goes back into youth programs, goes back into some type of senior program out here in Laveen, and it goes back into our parks. And that's one of the things that living out here for the last 12 years, it's been a sacrifice for a lot of us. But now we can see that light at the end of the tunnel, and all those restaurants, all those amenities. We've been talking to Harkins Theater, and yes, we'll probably get a big IMAX, and all those malls that mall that's going to come out here. We're looking at a bigger hospital also in this area. So all those things are coming, and it's because of the rooftops. We have about 100,000 families out here, so we need those rooftops. And once that freeway comes in, the developers start to develop a little bit more, we'll reach that magic number where people will want to come and build. So continue to tell us the story, the Laveen story, the Phoenix story, and we'll continue to make sure that we get our fair share of revenues also. God bless you all. Thank you for coming out.
You have been watching a community budget hearing held recently in Phoenix. For questions, comments, or ideas, please visit phoenix.gov or call 602-262-4800. You can also send feedback through social media by using #PhoenixBudget. This video can also be seen online at phoenix.gov/PHXTV or youtube.com/City of Phoenix AZ.